So today we're going to talk about the breaking down of the real number system. You know, in a lot of things in life, especially when you go to like a science class or anything involving science, we like to categorize things. We wanna be able to put labels on things, and numbers aren't any different. For the most part, anything that you've dealt with so far is part of what we call the real number system. The numbers that we're dealing with are real things. They're able to describe things in nature. Well, as we look at those, we kind of break those down to different parts. I guess a real simple example would be like dogs. Okay, we all know what a dog is, but you know we'd like to be able to break down the category of dogs into more specifics. Like, are you talking about a Chihuahua? Are you talking about a German Shepherd? Are you talking about a Doberman Pinscher? And then when you get into that, you can even break those down more. Like if you're talking about a dachshund, well, there are different types of dachshunds. Is a straight hair dachshund? It's a toy dachshund, a miniature dachshund. So, like I said, there's a lot of ways to describe things, and numbers aren't any different. So, let's talk about these categories here. The first category we're talking about is what we call natural or counting numbers. Now, these are the ones that are the most basic. They're ones that are what I consider like finger numbers. You can count these with your fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Okay, they're the most basic. Okay, but if you kind of think back to when man was like becoming more and more civilized and started using numbers to describe things, um, he just started out with this, but then eventually, it might sound kind of odd, but eventually he needed to come up with a way to describe nothing. And so he came up with the number 0. And once he did, he started a new category called the whole numbers. And the whole numbers start with 0 and include all the natural numbers. And this idea of including the group above it is going to be kind of a common theme here. So whole numbers are 0 and all the natural numbers, or counting numbers. Okay, and then, as time went on, we needed a way to describe, well, what if we're in debt? What if we owe somebody something? And so, starting with the whole numbers, but then we added in their opposites. Okay, and those were the integers. And so, if you notice, the integers contain all the whole numbers, which contain all the natural or counting numbers. And so what I can do is I could ask you a question like this, and I can say, all right, are true or false? All the integers are whole numbers. The answer to that would be false, because not all of them are. These negatives aren't. But then let me switch that question around, true or false. All the whole numbers are integers. The answer to that would be true, because all of these are contained right there. Then we got into something that's called the rational numbers. Pardon me. And the rational numbers include all these numbers we've been dealing with, even the negatives. But then the rational numbers also include numbers like a half, or 1.4, or negative 2/3. Okay, so rational numbers, for the most part, are almost every number you can think of. Almost. A real definition would be it's a number in which you can make it into a fraction. And like I said, for the most part, rational numbers are just about every number that you can think of and that you deal with, whether it be in math class or on a daily basis. There are a few exceptions, which we'll talk about here in just a second. Okay, so again, if you notice that rational numbers include all these categories up above. Okay, so we're just getting more and more descriptive. As we started here at the top, okay, as we keep working our way down, we're able to become more and more descriptive. And then we have these things called irrational numbers, pardon me. And irrational numbers are numbers like pi, or radicals that can't be simplified anymore, so like radical 3 or radical 2. Okay, those are what we call irrational numbers. And these are kind of a category unto themselves. And so what you can do, if you're kind of a visual person, if we do a little graphic organizer here, if I create this box, okay, and in that box we're going to put all the real numbers. Okay, anything that's in this box is a real number. And if we kind of work our way backwards, you notice that irrational numbers they don't include any of these up above. And so we have over here on this side, here's where all the irrational numbers are. They're real numbers, but they're kind of all by themselves. And then over here, we have all the rational numbers. And then within the rational numbers, okay, we have the integers. Because the rational numbers do include all the integers. And then within the integers, you have the whole numbers. I'm getting small here. And then within the whole numbers, I'm going to get real small here, sorry. You have those counting numbers. And so you can see kind of all the actions taking place over here. Irrational numbers are real numbers, and so are rational. I mean, all these numbers here are real numbers. But there's kind of a break here where the irrational numbers are kind of off by themselves, while all these other numbers over here are related to one another. So hopefully that makes sense, but that's the basic breakdown of the real number system.